Alright, so today we got a boost up one of those up here. This is by far probably the biggest bike I've had up here. 08 booster. And so it's up here. He had a issue with his front tire before. He said it was vibrating. Come to find out that whoever had done the install on a tire had put balance beads in there, which I guess I could talk a little bit about balance beads. Every sport bike I've had balance beads in, at around 100, 120 miles an hour, they vibrate. And so I ended up having to take them out and rebalance the tire with normal weights or whatnot. Under that, doesn't seem to be an issue. Nobody has a problem. But over 100 miles an hour, they vibrate. That being said, when I pulled his apart, whoever had put it in didn't install their little spacer on this side over here. So Jigsters only have one wheel spacer. The head of the axle takes the place of the other spacer. But when I pulled it out, there was no spacer at all. Not only that, but this is how his tire rolled. Like legit. Brakes are dragging. Stupid bad. Stupid bad. And I was just like, you need to have those looked at. And so when I was taking the wheel off, this is it here. I've already started. I've got the caliper loose. Like this is the caliper does not want to come off. So I'm having to like wiggle it. I mean, I don't want to hit the rim and beat the rim up, and this is ridiculous. The how much resistance that this caliper has in it. So what I'm doing is I'm installing. He bought some used calipers with low miles on them, and we're gonna put those on and try to bleed them. I tried to bleed these, and I mean the pistons are just really dirty in there. So they're just seizing up on it. So I told him we're gonna take care of it, re-bleed everything, and get it back rolling again. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do today. All right. Pretty much what we're going to do is just going to move the line from here to there. Understand that brake fluid will eat paint. So if you get brake fluid anywhere on your paint, it will like eventually eat through the paint. So we got the line switch on. That's just finger tight. So whenever you're putting brake lines on here, you'll notice that there's always a spot where the brake line should sit, and it holds it so that the brake line can't spin. This one's at the very top. You see it here. See this little like notch here? So the brake line goes here, so when you're tightening down the bolt to the right, the brake line can't spin. So you never want to put the brake line like that or down or anything like that. You want them here so it's like a brace. Tighten up the caliper mount bolts, and I'm gonna give a good torque on the line to see if we can get that line to seal up. It's got a crush washer on here and here, just like these two little washers. See them stacked up right there. Take the Banjo bolt, get nice and taut. Dang wrench. Everything's tight on this side, so just slide the pan underneath. Go to the other side. Now see, they have the two on this side. So on the Banjo bolt, you should have the brake lines are stacked here. So this Banjo bolt that's in this caliper here is longer. And it has two holes in it. Very educational. So that just allows the brake fluid to pass through the bolt and into the line, or from the line into the bolt right down to the caliper. So there should be 3 Am I seeing? Oh, there's a third one. Okay. It should be 3 little crush washers. One for the top bolt, one for the in between the two, and then one for the bottom. So I can tell you want to break this brake line free while it's still mounted. So much easier that way. Look at this. That thing is not one way to go. Oh. Alright. This is what I was talking about when I was taking his front tire off to balance it. I was like, bro, this should not be this hard by any stretch of the imagination. Like, this is unbelievable how difficult it is to get this caliper off. Shouldn't be like this. It's ridiculous. So, I just want to touch base. So while you're doing this, make sure you have one washer here, one washer in between the two, and one washer here. Now, not all bikes are like this. Some have a splitter up further in the middle, like up above the wheel, and then just one line comes to each side. It's a little bit easier, but you want to at least make sure that you're getting the washers right if you have a setup like this. So, there we go. Just having to spread them a little bit there. Drop the washer. Alright, like before, it's got the brace. This side of the brace goes to the right, so when I'm turning the bolt, the Banjo fittings will be wanting to go to the right. So as I'm screwing it to the right, these will want to spin this way, and so this is a brace to stop those both from spinning. Alright. Just because I feel like the information should be out there. So yeah, see, that's like the typical kind of drag. But it shouldn't be hard to push. Alright, so now that you're going to bleed it, you bleed the one that's furthest from the calipers, or the master. So, the master's here. So, the line goes down, and it comes to this one. And then it jumps over to the one over here. So, the one that we're going to bleed is going to be this one. So, what is that? It looks like an 8 mil. And that's what it is. Okay. So, just gonna do that, loosen that up. Now, I found pretty much the easiest way to bleed brakes is a tube. So this is the coolest little screwdriver ever. Yeah. My little screwdriver here. I took off the thing because I can get it up in there. So. It's an awesome little screwdriver, but you'll get to see it when it goes back on, I guess. But anyways, I was trying to explain this because I pulled this out, and it was all the way pushed out like this. And I always get asked, like, what does this thing do? Pretty much, your brake lines are sealed, so no air gets in here, no air gets in the brake line. It's all hydraulic fluid. So. As your brake pads are wearing down, your piston is coming further out, okay, and so that requires more fluid to come down into your calipers. Well, that takes fluid for the reservoir, and the reservoir has to go down, but it can't let air in for the reservoir to go down. So what this does is it extends out to fill that negative void, so that the negative air doesn't suck the fluid back up into the master cylinder. Okay, so it'll be extended like that, and you just kind of flatten it back out. Dot 3, dot 4. The only real difference is the boiling point. So fill that to the top there. Pump that down. Okay, so it looks like I just didn't have the valve open enough. When I started messing with the hose, it opened up more, and so now it's coming out. But that fluid is like super brown, and so this is considered gravity bleeding. Is the master cylinder cap is open, the reservoir is open, so the caliper is lower than the master cylinder, so the fluid's just kind of going through and draining out. I'm gonna help it along here, pushing out the air bubbles and stuff that are in the line. Whenever you're bleeding, you want to make sure that you don't run out of fluid, so top that off real fast. And so as long as there's fluid in this little tube, air can't get back in line. See how it sucks the fluid back down? Which is fine. All we're trying to do is get the air out of the line. You know, maybe get rid of some of that. Well, the fluid is much better now. It's not brown. It's much clearer. So we're not getting any air bubbles in. Oh, there's a couple. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten up this valve here. Ooh, don't want it to suck air back in there. So I'm going to tighten up this nipple here, and then we'll move on to the other side. Alright, so this side's tight. And so I do this side now. Put my little tube on there. I'm gonna make sure the wrench fits. You start tearing that thing up, man. The bleeder valve, and never get it right. See, this one's already got the fluid right there. A couple air bubbles in there. That's all we're looking to get out of this one. Oop. I'm getting low on that fluid again. The fluid's just pouring out. I don't see any air bubbles in that line there. Due to the extra pressure in there, put it on here and get kind of snug. And snug it up. Squeeze the brake, pump it up a little bit, and I crack it, and then I squeeze. And as I'm squeezing, I tighten it back up, and I compress the brake lever all the way to the handle. Okay. That's what I do. I always seem to feel like it gets a little bit more pressure immediately. It may not, it may. But, let's see, we have pressure in the handle now. So, we come to the wheel, and look at that. It's not so tight that it can't move. So it actually rolls a little bit. Like it's supposed to, even after it hits the brakes. So we can roll this, hit the brakes, it doesn't move, and then it releases. And that's the way it should act. The brakes should release a little bit and allow the wheel to free move. Those other calipers just weren't doing it. So this would be a much nicer riding bike now that he's got that all done. Brakes are all bled, and he's ready to go. Put this cap back on here. And so you want to make sure that the fluid's not too tall. There's like this little line in there. You see the little line. Yeah, you see the little line. That's overfull there. So there's another thing about brake fluid, and I guess it's not as commonly understood as I thought. Okay, there's really enough fluid in here when you have new pads. I'm trying to get this thing to focus. There's enough fluid in here when we put brand new pads in here that you should be able to ride it without having to add fluid back in there. So when this thing gets low, not only is it telling you that it's not really telling you that you need brake fluid. It's telling you that you need brake pads. Because your pads are low is why your fluid is gone. And like I was saying earlier, that as the pistons go out, fluid fills behind the pistons and the pistons come together. As those pistons come together, the more fluid is needed or whatever, and so your fluid level gets lower. So whenever your fluid level is low, you need to check your pads, because more likely your pads are worn out. If it was done right, you should have enough fluid in there for the pads to wear all the way out. Now, you're not supposed to wait until you're rubbing metal. You have your little indicators right there. If those are gone, you need to change your pads. Flatten this out and put this in here, just like that. Right on the top. And here's my little nifty screwdriver. Not sure why those light's doing that, but can't get any torque behind this screwdriver, but it's a lifesaver in tight spots. And we're going to take our nipple covers here for the bleeder valves and put those back on there. Both sides, and then we're done. Alright. Thanks for watching.